It's good to have you join us. Thanks for giving us your time. I'm Felicity Ezewike. Let's begin by telling you that the Central Bank of Nigeria has raised the monetary policy rate by 50 basis points from 26.25% to 26.75% in response to soaring inflation and skyrocketing food prices. CBN Governor Olayemi Cardoso announced the increase on Tuesday during the Apex Bank's 296th Monetary Policy Committee meeting in Abuja. The MPC also set the cash reserve ratio for deposit money banks at 45%, while mattered banks will see their CRR adjusted to 14%. The liquidity ratio has also been set at 30%. The MPC meeting is convened to assess the country's economic and financial conditions and to determine the appropriate monetary policy direction for the short to medium term.
Decisions are as follows. Raise the MPR by 50 basis points to 26.75% from 26.25%. From 26.75% from 26.25%. Adjusted the asymmetric corridor around the MPR from plus 100 to minus 300 to plus 500 to 100 basis points. Retain the cash reserve ratio of deposit money banks at 45% and merchant banks at 14%, and retain the liquidity ratio at 30%. Okay, ultimately, if we're doing all the things we're doing and we're not able to impact the man on the street, ultimately, then what do we really say we've been doing? And I think sometimes when people look at figures too often, they may lose track of that. And that is why I said what I said, that it is so important that we continue to bear that in mind, that our policies must ultimately impact the man on the street.
To discuss this, I'm joined by Chartered Accountant Akin Fatunke. Aki, good evening. Thank you, as always, for joining us. How might the increase in NPR from 26.25% to 26.75% impact borrowing costs for businesses and consumers in Nigeria?
Thank you very much, Felicity, for having me, and good evening, Nigerians. Clearly, the 50 basis points within the asymmetric corridor, 100, 300, naturally will lead to higher borrowing for businesses, and that includes the SMEs, and then you and I, consumers. Why is this? Because typically when the MPR is raised, it measures the benchmark by which the commercial banks borrow from central bank. And because they want to maintain their profit margin, actually, lending rates will have to go up. Now, the higher interest rates on loans naturally will also have to go up, and this will reduce borrowing and investment. It will increase cost of production for businesses and SMEs. It will lead to higher prices for you and I, being the consumers, and of course, overall, slow economic growth.
With the liquidity ratio now pegged at 30%, how do you foresee this affecting lending activities and overall economic growth in the country?
If lending is not going to increase by way of quantum, you are going to have a lot of competitiveness. Businesses struggling to try and stay within those loans. The available loans that you have. And what that does, that's steep competitiveness, because it's just 50 basis points. Now raise what I'll call the lending rates. Also will have to, not help, the demand on the streets so very well. So the demand side, okay, to try to tame inflation will naturally come down. But if this is not met on the other side with productivity increase in food production, the inflation will still continue to run very, very high, especially the urban, the headline, not to talk about the food inflation that is over 40%. So that 30% will help to try and pull in perhaps liquidity that is a bit outside the system, that is been very hard and difficult to tame up till about now. But that's all that will do.
Given the current economic conditions, do you think these policy measures are sufficient to address inflationary pressures and stabilize the economy?
It cannot be. It cannot even be sufficient. And the CBN governor was clear that if all the things that they are doing is not touching the man out there on the street, then what exactly, like you say, what exactly are we doing? So there has to be the proper clap from the monetary, and also a proper clap from the physical. We need to see more happening. And given the fragile economy that we have, a couple of things that just happened within the last 2 months, like we know, minimum wage after a lot of drag here and there, has not really taken up. We need some extra budgetary to making sure that the federal as well as the states meet up, and they must meet up, even though we are not meeting up with what you call the living wage. And so, okay, the fragile nature, galloping inflation, okay, we have to tame the demand side, but we need to begin to look at the supply side. The additional measures that I will recommend will be fiscal policy adjustments. I mean, there have to be reduced government spending. When I say reduced government spending, we may have to find ourselves spending on the real people, the people on the streets that Mr. Cardoso is talking about. But for government and for apparatchiks of government, they have to go beyond what the National Assembly, I think the House of Reps, is talking about reducing for 6 months their basic salary. It has to cut down the line, federal, even up to the states. Now they are getting more money. Can we begin to see that some of these monies are now applied to helping to boost the economy? The poorest of the poor, we need to. Now we need to also look at the exchange rate management, and we have to do structural reforms to improve the business environment, really, and able to attract investments as much as we can, even though many are flying out with their feet.
Basically, a lot more work is required.
A lot more work other than talk is required, and we must begin to see more of this movement on the physical side. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, as always, for speaking with us.
Always a pleasure, Felicity. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Have a good night. Right, the House of Representatives on Tuesday called for the suspension of the Chief Executive of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Authority, Farouk Ahmed, pending conclusive investigation into the allegations against the authority. This followed the adoption of the motion of urgent public importance by Esosa Ayawi, moved during plenary in Abuja. Moving the motion, Ayawi noted that the fuel quality can impact engine hardware, thus ultra-low sulfur diesel is recommended for all types of companies, power plants, storage tanks, industrial facilities, fleets and heavy equipment, and even ships, as high sulfur content in fuels causes damage to engines and contributes to air pollution. He said considering the various risks associated with sulfur, governments around the world have taken steps to regulate it by setting standards that require maximum reduction of emissions of this chemical compound, which diesel producers are expected to adhere to. In the meantime, Group Chief Executive Officer of NNPC, Mele Kyari, has denied owning a blending plant in Malta. He also stated that he is unaware of any Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited employee who owns such a facility in the European island country. In a post on his X social media handle on Tuesday, Kyari challenged President of Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, to publicly identify any NNPC personnel involved with a blending plant in Malta. Dangote, Africa's wealthiest man and owner of a $20 billion refinery in Lagos, had claimed over the weekend that certain NNPC staff and oil traders are operating a blending plant in Malta, which he argues is hindering local production of petroleum products. Regulatory authorities have also raised concerns about the quality of petroleum products produced at the refinery in the Lekki Free Trade Zone. Away from that, the House of Representatives has asked the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, NEC, and the distribution companies, DISCOs, to reverse the tariff hike for Band A customers. This directive was given on Tuesday after the adoption of a report presented by the House Committee on Power. It will be recalled that NEC announced the hike affecting Band A customers who are to pay 225 naira per kilowatt. The House also resolved to probe the tariff hike pending an investigation. Presenting the report, Chairman of the Committee on Power, Victor Nwokolo, said Nigerians cannot afford the new tariff. The recommendations were adopted by the Committee of the Whole, after which it was passed. Thank you for staying with us. Recall we just brought you a story before the break about the allegations by Aliko Dangote. Recall that the chairman of Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, a couple of days back alleged that certain elements within the Nigerian oil industry and regulators were deliberately trying to frustrate his refinery operations because of their ownership and interest in an oil blending facility in Malta. Following the allegations, investigations have revealed that Ras Hanser Oil Terminal Limited, a company engaged in crude oil blending business in Malta, has Nigerian company Oando PLC as one of its shareholders. Oando PLC is a Nigerian-listed energy company with interest in oil exploration, production, and trading. In 2014, Oando PLC acquired a stake in Ras Hanser Oil Terminal Limited, making it one of the few Nigerian companies with a direct investment in Malta's oil storage and blending sector. Our sources revealed that the following are on the board of Ras Hanser Oil: Bola Tinubu, chairman, also Group Chief Executive of Oando PLC; Mofe Boyo, non-executive director, also Deputy Director, Chief Executive of Oando PLC; Olufemi Adeyemo, non-executive director; Adewale Tinubu Jr., executive director; Umar Faraj, non-executive director; Mark B. Davis, non-executive director, also a former executive at Trafigura. And to one of our top stories tonight, President Bola Tinubu has appealed to Nigerians to shelve a planned bad governance protest slated for next month. Information Minister Mohammed Idris, who briefed selected State House correspondents after a meeting with President on Tuesday, said he urged the organizers of the protest to shelve the plan and awaits the President's response to their complaints. The protest against economic hardship, which is gaining traction on social media, has been scheduled to be held across all states of the Federation, as well as the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, in August. The organizers of the protests have been faceless. Earlier on Saturday, presidential spokesman Bayo Onanuga warned that the planned protest, if staged, could degenerate into destruction of assets that trailed the NSAS protest against police brutality and extrajudicial killings in October 2020. Staying with that story, the Inspector General of Police, Jide, has urged citizens to avoid the planned protest, stating that the proposed nationwide protest was ill-advised. Egbetokun's statement was made in response to social media campaigns rallying for a nationwide protest scheduled for August 1 due to the economic hardship in the country. Speaking during a meeting with commissioners of police in Abuja, he noted that the country has experienced violent protests with severe consequences. The IG added that the last EndSARS protest worsened crime rates and insecurity in several parts of the country. While he acknowledged the right to peaceful protest as enshrined in the Constitution, the IGP said the force must ensure that these protests do not snowball into violence or disorder. Let's take a look at this development with the help of a public affairs analyst, Jide Ojo. Jide, thank you for joining us. I mean, in your view, how effective are appeals like these made by the president in persuading protesters to shelve their plans? Wouldn't it be a little more proactive to respond to the need for the protest in the first instance?
Thank you, Felicity. I think the Tinubu administration is jittery, and jittery because of the recent happening in Kenya, how the Kenyan youth have been able to successfully protest to the extent that the president had to dissolve his cabinet and embarked on a wide range of reforms, including suspension of a planned tax increase in Kenya. And you see, we are in the era of social media, and the world has become a global village. So I think Nigerian youth are taking a cue from what happened in Kenya, and they feel that, given the rising cost of living, the hardship that many Nigerians are facing, issues around poverty, unemployment, lack of infrastructure, insecurity, and the rest, that it's time not to keep quiet. As Professor Wole Soyinka said, if the man dies in name, who keeps silent in the face of tyranny? And that's why I said the Tinubu administration is jittery, and you could see the Inspector General of Police issuing a threat that, yes, it's within the rights of citizens to protest, but they should not go on the street. You have also seen the spontaneous reaction of the presidency. Never in the history of this country, to the best of my knowledge, have we had a kind of expeditious passage of a law under 48 hours, as we had with this budget, supplementary budget of 6.2 trillion that was passed today. This was a bill, that was read. It went through the first reading on Thursday last week, and yesterday they invited the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Budget and National Planning, who gave a breakdown. And today it went through the second, the third reading, and the passage in both chambers, which means that they want to pull the feet pull the rug from the feet.
Jide, that is another important issue I would actually want to explore, but that is not the focus of this conversation at the moment. I wanted to get from you, instead of asking or suggesting that the people shelve the proposed protest, I'm thinking, isn't it a bit more proactive, do you think, for the presidency to respond to the concerns being raised and the need for the protests?
And that's what I'm asking you. The fact that the expeditious passage of the national minimum wage bill, the resolution of that, remember that the NLC has said if there is no passage of that bill, or that their demands are not made, they were going to go on a nationwide strike. So government has been able to resolve that. You also saw the rollout of palliatives Recently, the federal government rolled out $1 trillion worth of economic relief packages about a couple of weeks back. It's all part of the plan to meet the needs of this young youth. Don't forget, when you talk about rising cost of living, you talk about unemployment, you talk about poverty, it's not something you solve in one day, but you have to take initiatives, and that's why I'm recounting some of the initiatives the administration have been able to take in the last few weeks, including even the president going to chair the National Economic Council and asking state governors to give him a blueprint or roadmap of how they want to improve food production.
Jide, there is no question. I kind of get your point. There is no question that the government is making an effort, right? But the people are saying these are inadequate. And because the people, I mean, most people are aware of some of the things that they've done. What I'm saying is, the protest is proposed for, in less than a week, people want to go out to the street. Is it maybe, or is there maybe an action that the government can take now, a statement, and a different approach that will encourage the people to step back from going to the streets to protest? He is working, I mean, to some degree, but the people are saying this is not enough. We want more.
So, Felicity, I don't want to throw the question back at you. Governance is a process. There is a huge bureaucracy behind government. It's not a magic wand that you just wave and everything will fall in place. I've only told you, to the best of my knowledge, some of the activities and actions of government which is aimed at alleviating poverty, improve employment opportunities, and making life better for average Nigerians. Yes, they are inadequate, and we still have serious issues of insecurity. But then, I mean, even if you are going to recruit more boots on ground, you are going to buy arsenal or armament and all of that. You are not going to do that in a day. So what the president has come out to say is that give me some more time to look into your demands. I'm working around the clock to alleviate, to ameliorate some of those.
All right, quickly, Jide, just one more before we go. And I'm told we don't have time, so if you could do that in 30 seconds. How should the government balance the right to peaceful protests with concerns about potential violence as expressed by the Inspector General of Police? In 30 seconds, sir, I'm sorry.
So that's the way forward now. If the youth insist on protesting, it now leaves the security agencies, particularly the Nigerian police, to safeguard the peaceful protest and make sure that they are not hijacked, as was the case in 2020 when we had the NSAS protest. Of course, every discerning mind knew that the protest of NSAS of 2020 was state-sponsored attack on the Nigerian youth. And that's what we don't want to see with this. Let the youth protest, but let the police marshal plans to protect the youths, safeguard them, make sure that the ministers and the hoodlums do not have access to go and violate their rights to protest. That's the best that can be done under the circumstance, while at the same time rolling out economic relief packages and making sure that some of those grievances are looked into. The August one is still some few days to come. There are still a lot that could be done, including the nationwide broadcast by the president to appeal to the emotions of the Nigerian youth to give him a little more time rather than speaking through some of his aides and ministers.
Jide, thank you.
It's my pleasure.
The Senate on Tuesday speedily passed the National Minimum Wage Act 2029 Amendment Bill. The bill, which scaled first, second and third readings just minutes after it was transmitted by President Bola Tinubu, was instantly passed by the upper chamber. Earlier on Tuesday, the president transmitted the National Minimum Wage Bill to the National Assembly for consideration and passage. The president separately wrote the Senate and the House of Representatives requesting expedited consideration of a bill for an act to amend the National Minimum Wage Act 2019 to increase the national minimum wage from 30,000 naira to 70,000 naira. The president also asked the lawmakers to reduce the time for periodic review of the national minimum wage from 5 years to 3 years and related matters. CIG Motors Company Limited, the sole dealer of GAC Motors in Nigeria, has unveiled Grammy nominee and Nigerian singer David Adeleke, popularly known as Davido, as its newest brand ambassador. According to the company's leadership, the unveiling is part of the company's youth-focused initiative to promote sustainable transportation among the younger generation and reduce carbon emissions on Nigerian roads. News Center's Adeshewa Odushoka reports.
As the world evolves to tackle the challenges of climate change, the automotive industry is intensifying efforts to reduce its carbon footprint through vehicle electrification. CIG Motors, Nigeria's sole dealer of GAC Motors, is a pioneer in reducing life cycle emissions. According to Managing Director of CIG Motor Company Limited, Diana Chen, the company's goals include improving air quality, creating calmer roads, and fostering a sustainable environment, all while ensuring a pleasurable travel experience. This commitment was highlighted at the recent unveiling of their brand ambassador in Lagos.
Our vision is that to drive the innovation in the electric vehicle, because in the electric vehicle are the new area of the economy.
Our factory is a KD factory, and this factory has the capacity to produce or assemble between 5,000 to 10,000 cars in a year.
To amplify its message about sustainable transportation among Africa's youth, CIG Motors has announced a new partnership with one of Nigeria's top musicians, David Adeleke, popularly known as Davido. The collaboration sees Davido stepping in as the brand's newest ambassador.
I've had the opportunity to own these cars before. This even without even knowing the people that work there. This is just buying the car for personal use. And then over time, so they reached out and was like, they feel like the Davido brand and GAC Motors, we bring energy, we bring class, we bring uniqueness. So they felt like, coming together could, become something.
The unveiling event was graced by notable figures, including Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke, who is also Davido's uncle, renowned businessman Obi Kubana, and Lagos State Commissioner for Transportation Oluwaseun Oshiyemi, among other distinguished guests.
They are quite innovative. They are futuristic. Okay, they are really meeting up with the requirements and expectations of modern-day automobiles. And I'm happy dealing with them.
In addition to its commitment to reducing carbon emissions on Nigerian roads, CIG Motors is dedicated to empowering youth through job creation, skill development, and social impact initiatives. Recently, the company has partnered with the Lagos State government to enhance the lag ride fleet with the acquisition of 5,000 brand new vehicles. This collaboration represents a significant investment of $260 million, injecting a boost into Lagos' economy. In Lagos, for News Central, Adeshewa Odushoka.
The news continues in East Africa, where Tanzanian President Samia Hassan has fired 2 senior ministers, including the head of the Foreign Ministry, in a mini cabinet reshuffle. The move comes ahead of expected national elections next year, with the sacked information minister caught in a viral video last week saying winning an election is not always determined by the number of votes in the ballot box. Mohammed Kombo has been appointed a member of parliament and the new Minister for Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation to replace January Makamba, whose appointment is revoked. Jerry Sila, previously Lands, Housing and Settlement Development, was appointed to replace Nape Nwai, Minister for Information, Communication and IT. Let's now bring you the latest business stories.
Business news in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money.
The African Development Bank has made substantial investments in Nigeria, totaling $10.9 billion. Currently, the bank's portfolio includes $4.9 billion dedicated to supporting projects in both the public and private sectors of the country. Lamin Barrow, the Director General of the West African region of AFDB, revealed these figures during a recent event in Abuja celebrating the bank's 60th anniversary. Nigeria holds the largest share in AFDB and their collaboration has expanded over the years. The bank's investments in Nigeria have been directed towards sectors such as energy, power, transport, water, and sanitation infrastructure. To the Horn of African nation, Kenya has emerged as the leading recipient of funding from the African Development Bank in the East and Central African region over the past 10 years. According to the data from the Pan-African lender, Kenya received a total of $3.718 billion or 2.77 billion units of accounts in approved funding between 2013 and 2023. This was followed by neighboring Tanzania, which received $2.83 billion, that's about 2.11 billion units of accounts, and Rwanda, which received $1.81 billion, that's about 1.35 billion units of accounts. Sectors such as energy, road construction and water have been major beneficiaries of the FDB's funding, solidifying its role as an important development partner for Kenya. Meanwhile, Kenya's Chief Minister Musalia Mudavadi has informed a parliamentary panel that the International Monetary Fund is expected to review the country's revised fiscal repair plan in late August. This follows youth-led protests against proposed tax increases, which led to the government devising new spending cuts. The IMF's support is seen as vital for Kenya to manage its substantial debt repayment obligations. Despite recent setbacks, including a credit rating downgrade, Mudavadi expressed hope that Kenya's proposal would be favorably received, allowing the country to overcome its current challenges. Finally, we tell you that according to traders, the Ugandan shilling experienced a slight weakening on a Tuesday due to increased demand for dollars from merchandise importers and commercial banks at 0943 GMT. Commercial banks quoted the exchange rate at between 3,698 and 3,702, slightly higher than the previous day's closing rate of between 3,688 and 3,698. And that's all on business news. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekon Onobanjo.
Business news in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money.
Let's join the sports team for the latest sports update.
Sports update. Brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile.
In sports, the official draw for the table tennis event of the Paris 2024 Olympic Games is set to take place on Wednesday, and Nigeria's trio of Jide Omotayo, Ofyong Edem, and Fatima Bello will know their first-round opponents when the event kicks off on the 27th of July. Top 16 seed Quadri Aruna will kick off his 5th Olympic Games campaign from the round of 64, while Omotayo, who will be making his second appearance at the Games, will start his campaign from the preliminary rounds of the men's singles. Edem Ofyong, who is making a 5th Olympic Games appearance, as well as debutant Fatima Bello, will also start their participation in the preliminary rounds of the women's singles. A total of 172 players, 86 in men's and 86 in the women's category, will compete across 5 medals events. The 2024-2025 Ghana Premier League season dates have been announced by the Ghana Football Association. The opening matches will take place on Friday, the 6th of September, and it will be concluded on Sunday, the 8th of June 2025. The calendar will consist of 34 weekends with no official midweek match day. This policy is aimed at lessening the travel burden on clubs. The midweek will be used to clear outstanding games by clubs that are participating in the 2024-2025 Africa Interclub competitions or rescheduled games. The Premier League will go on a one-week break in the lead up to the December 7, 2024 national elections to enable players and officials travel across the country to fulfill their civic duty and responsibility. The Champion of Champions game between league champions Samatex and cup winners Nswatraman will open the season on the 1st of September. South Sudan's men's basketball team, the Bright Stars, have achieved an incredible feat by qualifying for the Paris Olympics basketball event, despite the ongoing conflicts in their home country. Having fought through one of the longest civil wars on record, the youngest nation in the world is forging a new identity through basketball and recently came within 1 point of upsetting multi-Olympic and world champions, the United States of America. According to Royal Ive, coach of the side, basketball has united the country and given it hope as well as some healing.
When we play basketball, South Sudan completely stops. All the violence, everybody's tuned into what these young leaders are doing. These are trailblazers of a country. And like I said before, basketball has united. It has given this country hope. It's given this country some healing. It's given this country some inspiration, some motivation. It was one of the greatest feelings I had through basketball to take this country that's only been independent for so long to Olympics. It hasn't hit me yet. It's so surreal right now. I don't know when it will hit me, probably opening ceremony, but it hasn't hit me yet.
And that's a wrap on Sport Update. I am Udoka Njoko.
Sports Update, brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile. Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited.
On Entertainment Tonight, Arya Starr is rapidly rising as one of Africa's prominent artists, gaining global commercial success following her critically acclaimed sophomore album, The Year I Turned 21. She's set to perform on The Tonight Show featuring Jimmy Fallon, showcasing songs from her new album, including Last Heartbreak Song with Give On. With this performance, Arya Starr joins the ranks of Nigerian artists like Wizkid, Tems, CK, Burna Boy, Asake, and Rema, who have graced the late night show. Since her debut in 2021, Arya Starr's captivating melodies and versatility has garnered her millions of fans and numerous awards. Her debut album, 19 and Dangerous, featured the hits Rush, which achieved diamond certifications in France, became the highest viewed music video by a Nigerian female artist, and earned a Grammy nomination for Best African Song Performance. Her global ascent truly is an epitome of Afrobeat's global success. American rapper Snoop Dogg has been named one of the final torchbearers for the Olympic flame ahead of Friday's opening ceremony in Paris. At 52, Snoop Dogg will carry the torch through the streets of Saint Denis, located in the north of Paris and home to the Stade de France Olympic Stadium on Friday. Since beginning of its journey in May, the Olympic torch has traveled across France, carried by various notable figures, including former Arsenal manager Arsene Wenger, Formula One driver Charles Leclerc, and actress Halle Berry. That's all on Entertainment Tonight.
Tonight on Trending, it has been revealed that fuel subsidies cost over 700 billion monthly under the Bola Tinubu-led government. Mohammed Shabiu, the Secretary of Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, Abuja Sleja, highlighted this discrepancy, noting that despite the federal government and NNPC's claim of no petrol subsidy, the latest figures indicate otherwise. Now here are some reactions on X. Ex-user Michael Onodugo Nwake says, but subsidy has gone and fuel is now $7.50, so where's the 700 billion going? Chris Ejiofor says, 700 billion care. Which fuel subsidy are we talking about here? Ogechukwu Chima says, fuel subsidy is gone. They all clapped. The savings will be used judiciously. Loriro, fuel price skyrocketed with its ripple effect of hardship. It is baby step hardship. Endure it. Today, fuel subsidy hits 700 billion naira. Where is the judicious use? We warned. Odumodu Bulago says subsidy is gone, subsidy is back, yet Nigerians still pay very high for fuel. And finally, Mustified on X says, what fuel subsidy? Didn't that end with Tinubu's majestic arrival and imperial declaration on the 29th of May 2023? Why is Nigeria the practical meaning of the more you see, the less you know, and the more you hear, the lesser you understand? And that is all tonight on Trending.
And that is all tonight. But before we go, let's take another look at the top stories. Central Bank of Nigeria has raised interest rate amid soaring inflation. President Tinubu has appealed to Nigerians to shelve planned protests. Senate has passed National Minimum Wage Bill into law. We also told you that Tanzania's president has fired 2 top ministers ahead of elections. Would like to hear from you? Please send your eyewitness report to the number showing now on your screen. You can follow us on all socials at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. As always, thank you very much for your kind attention. Have a good night.